Why don't you say that again, Amy?
Love us. Thank you, Cindy, for bringing us together for this meeting.
This is a reality check. And we were just talking before we hit the record button that I have no clue what's about to happen. We, well, maybe that's not exactly true. I'm going to let you know what my intention is. It comes directly from the Enlightenment intensives. My intention is for a direct experience of the truth, who and what I am. Furthermore, my intention is for the direct experience of the truth of who and what I am to be experienced not just through this limited point of view, but to all those that are called into an experience of truth. I don't know what that means. I don't, yes, I think it was yesterday we were talking about the joy of relaxing into the unknowing. Um, the official this official hour is designed to be with the book Reality Check by Helen Hamilton, and we're going to read it. Well, we're going to experience it. So it's a very short read. If you were to open it up and read it like it's a book, you could read it from beginning to end in about an hour, I think. But she even said that's not the purpose of this. So the intention, the outer structure is that I am going to screen share the Kindle version of the book, and we're going to take turns being with the words, and whoever the reader is at the time will read until she or he feels to stop reading, or until somebody unmutes and says, wait a minute, I want to sit with that. And we're going to see what happens. That is going to begin that. That being said, I found myself this morning, again, without much warning, doing a quick YouTube search, and I found essentially just a 6-minute clip of Helen Hamilton. And since it's not a video, I'm not even putting it on pause. I expect it'll be fine. And the question of the snippet is, what is reality? And I haven't actually listened to it. I just cut off the beginning where this woman's asking her the question, and I am inspired for us to begin whatever this aspect of this journey is together by listening to Helen. And then we'll move into Helen's book, unless somebody wants to say something first. Let's see what she says about what is reality.
Taught, that everything that seems solid is actually made of this moment, this now moment, sort of vibrating, condensed down into something that appears and feels solid. How can this chair that I'm sitting on be made of this insubstantial, formless moment? Like, if that's true, why, how can I sit on this chair? But it's when it begins to vibrate, the moment itself is completely still, isn't it? It's not doing anything at all. And it is vibration begins to happen. It's just continuous. And some of those vibrations become, really, really high. So we might call those gases. And it's when they begin to slow down, we'll call them liquid. And then when the vibration is really much slower, it appears as a solid. But only solid relative to another solid object. If you didn't have any physical senses, would you know if anything was solid? If you didn't have a body, would you know if anything was solid, liquid, or gas? It takes a whole new dimension then, doesn't it? After you recognize, but only when I've got a body can I say that this chair is solid and this air that I'm breathing in is not solid. Suddenly those categories become applicable then, don't they? The whole world of changing states and everything. But anything that even is a solid, even at room temperature, if you give it enough energy, it will become, it'll change state. Just like if you cool down the air in this room enough, it'll become liquid. You'll have to really slow down the vibration, but it'll become liquid. You know, even the nitrogen in this air, you know, they actually use liquid nitrogen to cool things down, to keep them cold at really low temperatures. So solid is more, it's given an absolute nature in our consciousness, in our vocabulary, isn't it? Things are solid and that's that. But I learned very quickly as a scientist, nothing is really only solid, a liquid or a gas. And solid in compared, you know, how do we define solid? Well, really, it's the fact that we can't put our hand through it like we can the air. So once we seemingly have a solid body, this whole category of solid or tangible or intangible becomes relevant then.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. No, that's. I think I think the thing that puzzles me sometimes when I listen to you talk about it is about not having a human, but you know, if we didn't have the body.
But at night time, in deep sleep at night time, when you're not using any of your body at all, right? In the dream state, there's some activity going on here, isn't there? There's objects in there, seemingly solid objects, but are they really solid? They seem real in your dream, right? You even, if you run and jump off a cliff in a dream at night time, you might even feel fear in the stomach because you're sure you're going to hit the solid ground at the bottom. Is it really solid? You know, so just kind of really extending that question into the waking state, which is given the supreme reality, isn't it? The waking state is seen as much more real than the dream state, and even more that's more real than the deep sleep. But is that really the ultimate reality? You know.
Okay.
It's enough to be interested in this as you are, and to say, tell me again, just to listen to it again. And when it becomes familiar, suddenly it become obviously true. Not through any working it out up here. Like all of this phenomenal world is gone in deep sleep. You don't even know you have a body then, do you? Not aware of time and space, not aware of any sense perception. All of it has gone.
Yeah.
But the potential for imagining objects is still there. The seed for it is still there. That's why when the waking state comes back, we feel that we're back and the world is there. You know, we don't ever question where did it go when I was asleep, you know.
Okay. Yeah. Well, I think I just need to, like you said, just listen again and again and starting to kind of, because today I was kind of thinking, well, what is solid anyway? You know, well, I've asked that question, what's solid? But I was thinking, what is solid anyway? And it's just a word, and it's the meaning that we give to that word, and so I have been contemplating that, so that'll help. Take that deeper.
It's good to hear it again because it goes. It's not our normal way of thinking as a human being. So very good. Gaina, would you like?
So before we begin the book, Rana would like to say something. I was going to say, anybody would like to say anything as Rana's hand was up?
Good morning, everyone. Really grateful to be here and to start this next chapter. There are a couple things that really stood out. Seeing the world from the point of view of having a body distorts reality right off the get-go. So I heard that loud and clear. She described solid as a dense, slow vibration. And what arose was it's still moving and changeable. It's not constant, so there's that thing. And the question, if I didn't have physical senses, could I say something is solid? That kind of engages the thinking mind immediately to try to figure that out. And that's all I wanted to share on that, instead of telling you the blathering that was going on with that. I just noticed that the mind really wanted to figure that out. So thank you.
Amy.
Hey there. Something came up recently with regard to dreaming, and I thought I would share this because it really, I don't know, it just struck me in a new way. Most of us probably have had a dream in which we did something really bad. And we woke up and went, oh, I'm so glad that was just a dream. And the relief at not having done that bad thing is just profound. And what Helen reminded me of is that that's this world. And that's why A Course in Miracles tells us nothing we do in this world, there's no reason to feel guilty about anything. So we can take that from the sleeping mind right into this seemingly waking world. Right? And I just love that. That's such a cleansing thought for me. I mean, I have had multiple times where I've woken up and just thought, oh my God, I'm so glad I didn't do that. Same thing here.
Richard.
Morning, everyone. Yeah, I think I'm really going to enjoy this book. I read the introduction, and I like what she said recently on that video you showed. What's helped me is the 3 states. Well, first, I've listened to teachers for years saying that's all what we experience is unreal. It's a dream, many say. And then I ran into teachers talking about the 3 states: a deep sleep, dreaming, and waking. And then when I was listening to Helen, she, my understanding, what helps me to wrap my mind around what she's saying is, in the deep sleep, nothing is there. So I tend to think that I like the idea of describing reality as infinite formless energy. So in order to make form, first you have to leave the deep sleep state and go to the dream state. And the dream state is nothing but thought. In order to move from the thought to the dream state to the waking state, you have to vibrate those thoughts so they make form and time and space. So that to me, that's the process. That works well for me. You go from formless infinite energy to energy that is appearing to be form, and time, space, and form is all done by our thinking, our ideas, and our brain, or in our awareness. And we vibrate those thoughts so that we can experience form, time, and space. That's where I'm at right now. That works for me. Love you all. I'm really looking forward to this book review.
Me too. And my day is now made because I heard Richard say he loved us. Hey, William. It's nice to see you 2 days in a row.
Well, uh, hmm. I don't want to take too much time away from the book, but I wanted to share something that seems so poignant for myself. I reread Helen's book this morning early in bed, but I think the disc I've been able to kind of put my mind around projecting whatever is there out on the screen of called the world. And that makes so much sense what she's saying about the vibration, that solid vibration and the solid out there vibration. But I had an experience I really wanted to share. Ah, man, I've just gotten so much from this. I Zoom with one of my nephews on the other side of the states, and we've done this for several years. And he's very, I should say, very deep person, lived in ashram, so forth, so forth. But we have these really nice, deep being present with each other. Well, 2 days ago, amazing. I was sure because we've never talked politics. I've known him since he was, he's now 60. And I was sure that he was of the same kind of thinking that my wife and so many of the other relatives are. Bless Pet. I could not believe it. Talk about being in a dream state. It was like I was in a waking dream state, but really, he was he's just this loving, lovable, wonderful guy. But he was so enthusiastic and happy with the way the election turned out. And it was like, oh, wow. But I got to listen to him, and I'm so grateful to him because he felt so trusting and so free because he never shares this with anybody, only with his wife, because of so much judgment from the surrounding people. Never. He spent probably 20 minutes telling me all the joy, the things that this would mean. He was so happy, 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 happy. Finally, finally, finally. Well, okay. I just listened and I listened and I thought, wow, what a gift this is to me. Because he's just doing what I do in here, believing what I'm thinking, the thoughts. But they're so different, which makes me now, it's so easy for me to sit back and observe. He's just believing his thoughts. It's just thoughts are running the show. Wow, I am looking at such a mirror, and I see that it's so much like the headless way. I don't see my head. I don't see as clearly how thoughts run my life. But boy, how I was seeing it with him. So I just had to share that because it just reverberates and it says, wow, talk about being awake in a dream state. That was, and I've had that lucid dreaming before where I kill somebody and the relief afterwards. I know what you're saying, Amy. So anyway, I don't know how deeply this will get, but that's why I'm looking to at Helen Hamilton. I've experienced her before, read her Dissolving the Ego. I love I love what I received from her. So just wanted to share all that. Thank you.
Yeah, and I'm grateful, and I'm going to say it again, and then we'll pull up the book unless somebody else wants to say anything. The intention for our hour here is a direct experience of the truth. So a testimony of a direct experience like you just shared is welcome at any given time in what we're doing. We're not here to read a book and intellectually understand it. At least I'm not. My intention is to have what we do here inform this sense of a separate self in a way that allows more truth and love to shine through it. So don't ever apologize for a share like that. Yeah. Don't ever apologize for being here.
Thank you.
Anything else? Yeah. Anything else, or should we do this thing? All right. So I'm going to share my screen. Pat has agreed to begin reading, and at least the way it is arising in me to share this is that Pat will read slowly. Pat knows how to entertain for sure. Pat will read, and until she feels to stop, or until any one of us simply unmutes and says, wait a minute, there's something here I want to sink deeper into or ask about or talk about, right? Does that make sense? In the moment that occurs, then the reader gets to feel into whether or not they're going to continue, or there's another one of us that will continue with the reading. Does that make sense? With that being said, we'll let John speak first if he'd like, and then we'll get started.
Thank you, Cindy. And I can't move on without acknowledging what William just shared, because it added to the joy of my life in an experiential way that it's just so beautiful. And I want to acknowledge myself for feeling it and for William for reporting it.
Beautiful. Beautiful. All right, let's do this thing.
Reality check.
Yeah, I'm pulling it up for anyone who doesn't have the book. I have it right here. Everybody can see my screen, right? And begin even at the dedication.
That's right. Okay. Reality check, a simple guide to final enlightenment. Dedication. This book is dedicated to making the first and last duality easy to transcend. It is not hard, and neither should it take a long time to realize the truth. May you find the peace that you are looking for in the true understanding and direct experience of reality.
And if anyone right here wants or feels like this should be hard or take a long time or want to argue that, go ahead and speak up.
All right, Chapter 1, Introduction. You are the formless reality in which the universe is simply an appearance and not an actual thing. There are no actual things. Everything that appears to be tangible and solid is really only so because we are perceiving it through our human senses. What is real is the formless, intangible self that is everywhere at all times. You are not a human being, and you are not the formless cause of all the forms.
I just want to say that that whole paragraph is just, I just want to digest it. Take it in.
Yeah. I was like, yeah, up until the last sentence. You are not a human being, and you are not the formless cause of all the forms.
That was my question. I don't understand the second part of that sentence. Could someone speak to that?
Which you is it talking to? I think is a better question.
Oh, okay. Thank you.
Hey, Richard.
I understand at this point is that the formless energy that is reality enters the dream state, and the formless energy, when it contacts a dream figure in the dream and manifests itself as whatever the condition of that form is. So it manifests as whatever it is aware of in the dream. So the dream is made up by ideas, and then the self is, the reality is manifested as a conditioning of the subject that is experiencing at the time. And we may all have similar experiences because our mind is full of ideas that are similar. So that's why we have similar experiences. I don't know if that makes any sense, but it helps me to journey my path.
Thank you.
I still don't get it because it starts out saying you are the formless reality. So it's speaking to the true self. And then it says, you're not a human being. I get that. But then I don't get that part. You are not the formless cause of all the forms.
There is no you.
Because there's no forms.
There's no
Okay,
you.
I'm gonna jump in here. This is just what A Course in Miracles has trouble with. It's the same thing. It's really difficult to speak to the you at all its levels. So she is speaking to both the egoic self and the self that wants to be realized, self-realized. So you, what you are in truth, but also speaking to you as the apparent human being, you are the formless reality. And the last line, this is what A Course in Miracles does. It's using the mind to undo the mind, right? It has to speak to the human at a level that the human can understand. And then when it says you are not a human being and you are not the formless cause of all forms, this is both sides of the same coin, because the human mind has no experience with boundless, ultimate mind of God. We can't imagine it, right? So what that is speaking to is you're both not the human being, but you're also unable to really understand what first cause is. First cause is God. We are forever an effect of God. We are forever an effect of ultimate reality. We are ultimate reality's thought extending itself out as itself in an apparent body mind. And that extension can take many different forms and formlessnesses, right?
But
And so it is just about impossible for the average reader who's reading this, even though they're really on the path, to understand what first cause is. We can't get it, right? And that's kind of what this is saying. Thank you.
would this be what you're saying, maybe, if I added the three words, you in the mind, you in the mind? Isn't that what you're saying?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. You in the mind that knows that it's not a body, even that mind. Because I try to avoid these discussions about levels of understanding, but sometimes it is pertinent to talk about these levels of understanding, because ultimate reality is just a series of nested dolls. It's the awareness of self, big S self, at a greater and greater and greater, more multidimensional level.
Before Rana speaks, here's what's coming through for me. We may or may not get to paragraph 2, but in paragraph 2 are the lines. Some of the ideas in this book will seem impossible to understand at first, but with repetition, they will begin to make sense. and my sharing is similar to what we recently, whether it was yesterday or I don't know, we have a lot of wonderful conversations. We were talking about the virtual headset and just this idea that at my current level of consciousness, what is being pointed to here is outside of my understanding. And from that point, Cindy has two choices, right? Choice number one is I'm going to work really hard to create an understanding based on my current level, my current consciousness level, which means I create all sorts of stories to make so that this current moment makes sense to this current level of consciousness. Choice two, I can accept there is a consciousness higher than Cindy can currently understand. And if I spend my time resting as beingness, and there were a number of us recently talking about the joy of not knowing, if I can rest in the not knowing, then something of a higher consciousness will inform Cindy, and Cindy's ability to understand what's going on will rise in consciousness. Amy liked it. She gave me a hug. At least that's my interpretation of this. How about you, Sandra? Does that?
Yes, that helps. I just want to share an experience because I puzzled over this for 35 years. And one of you might be able to. In my awakening experience, I heard a voice. And the voice said three things. It said, I am. Then it said, I am you. Then it said, I am more than you. And the more than you might speak to this sentence, I'm not sure. Is that right, Amy? Okay. So maybe I do have the answer after 35 years.
I think that's exactly right. And Cindy explained it so well.
Yeah.
I think part of the point is quit trying,
Yeah.
right?
Just, yeah. Thank you.
Hey, Rana.
Hello. I, like William, kind of added in there, and I'm feeling comfortable for now, right? Knowing there is more. So I like that openness that I'm feeling about this. This is not the answer, but it's helping me right now for this direct experience, really, of questioning the idea of being a body right now, you know? So, because Amy, you added a couple of words. So this is what I did. You are not a human being in truth. And you, the apparent human, are not the formless cause of all the forms. And that is super helpful for now. And I anticipate one day I could drop those extra things, right? Just like Cindy and Helen says, you know, further down. It's like when you put a book down and you come back to it a year later and read it again, and you're like, when did they slip that in there? You know, I didn't see that last time or have that understanding. And so, but what's happening here right now is trying to just drop the idea of referencing from the body as we're talking about this, you know, having a different point of view as the experience of reading. So thanks.
Hey, Richard.
Yeah, a great conversation. I love this. What has helped me is one understanding this kind of talking is Aaron Appy does a series on the law of one. And in the law of one, it's another guided or channeled material that was brought about in the 80s, I think, the 1980s. And it basically says within the illusion, there are 7 densities. We're in the 3rd density. currently as a human race, and we're experiencing the physical world in this density. Everything's very compact, as Helen said in the video, for frequency. And why I love Hawking's material is because he defined this density as from 0 to 1,000 hertz on the consciousness scale. And what Aaron did, he took the law of one and he said, I'm going to apply the process that Hawkins used on the third density out to the seventh density. And when he did that, he came up with 20,000 is the highest form of density versus the 1,000 that we are experiencing in the third density. So if there's any truth to that, it's all illusory. So, but it helps me understand that obviously if I'm at the 1,000 hertz, which is the current density, the third density, I cannot hope to understand what it would be like to be at 20,000 hertz. And and the law of one that talks, we go from physical beings into light beings and the sixth density. In other words, we're formless. We're only manifested light. If there's any truth to that within the illusion, which is all not true. So keep that in mind. But so if at some point we are light bodies rather than physical bodies, then we're going through a period of education, let me say, for the mind to realize that for me it's well, okay, assuming I accept all this BS, right? Why am I here? The Course says I chose to be here. Well, if I chose to be here, why am I here? And so that's what I'm dealing with now. And the best I can come up with is accept everything as it is without judgment and just be the love that I am in truth. So that's what I'm trying to do as a separate self, although I know I'm not real. Love you.
Okay. Part of the conversation yesterday, and then I'm going to hand it back over to Pat. Rupert was asked that question, and he gave an answer that felt good to me. I'm not saying it's true, but usually I stay away from those questions. He literally, my understanding the way it is, the way Rupert answered that question, he said, the finite mind's purpose is to understand its divine nature and then express that into the world. And that works, and I'm starting to cry, that works really well for this character. This finite job, entire purpose, is to rise into consciousness, to be filled with love so it can express into the world of form.
I love that. Yeah, one of the things I've learned difficultly, for me it was difficult. The finite mind, Richard, the separate self, can never know the infinite. Because if he were to know the infinite, he would become infinite, and the finite would disappear. They're like matter and non-matter. If the two ever come together, everything goes out of existence. They're either infinite or finite. I've always, as a separate self, be finite. What I love about the spiritual path, it says you can never know the infinite in a knowing way as a separate self, but you can experience being infinite. And that makes sense to me.
Shall we try to read a little bit more, Pat?
Yeah,
What do you think?
I wanted to, I guess people have said things sort of like this, but one of the things Helen said in one of her videos was, it can't be hard to be what you actually are. So and then there's which I wrote down, and I don't know from whom. You think you have to do something to get to a state of non-doing. So this kind of this feeling like this this is the feeling of I'm getting is that um, and also I'm pretty sure Helen said this is it's like the universe is or the self or the one reality is actually working its way into its self-realization through me. I don't have to make that happen. That is what's happening. All I have to do is agree to it, not resist it. So anyway, here's the and okay, screen sharing. I had a connection between the first sentence and the last sentence. You are the formless reality, but you are not the formless cause of forms because forms are not real. Okay, there is no manifestation of this world, things, objects, and people. It is all the one self. Many spiritual students struggle with trying to understand how the manifest and unmanifest can be really the same thing and spend a lot of wasted energy trying to resolve this. This book will help you to come to understand reality as it really is. Some of the ideas in this book will seem impossible to understand at first, but with repetition, they will begin to make sense. To perceive reality directly is to understand what you really are and what everything is. Once you really understand what you are, then nothing will be confusing anymore, and you will be able to read the statements above and they will seem obvious. You will wonder how you ever thought that you were a separate and limited human being destined to be born, to live, and to die.
So here's my question. Let me stop screen. Can I then, and I'm laughing because this is part of what I do, play in the assumption that if there's an upset or confusion here, it is because I am believing something about myself that isn't true.
Yep.
It's 100% right. That's 100% right.
Mm-hmm.
And how about if I am feeling into an upset because somebody in my world is doing something here, sort of, William, like, I'm so glad you shared that, William. Like, could be sitting here and I could feel a contraction and upset. And this system is saying it's because my daughter has not gotten her act together yet. And she's doing and believing things that are not right.
Can I say something about that? I like the words upset. When I turn it around, the truth is I set up reality for it to trigger exactly what I need to look at.
Mm,
I've never seen that before.
that's great.
Well,
An
it's
upset is a setup.
Mike Brown in the Presence Process. That's where I got that from. But it sure clicked home because every time now, it's always my projecting out there what I need to look further to the truth. And that's what it just unfolds then.
What a great name for a talk.
What I love about the Course in Miracles is it says that everything we experience is for our good. So what it really teaches is the world we experience, we think is real, is a lesson. Everything in it is a lesson. if we feel anything other than peace and love, we're in the wrong mind. So we have to forgive ourselves for first believing that we're separate from our source. And then when we realize, we get into the stillness, and then we extend the stillness, not project it. The ego projects and the spirit extends. So we extend the love, joy, and peace that you are into the dream that you know you're dreaming, so that your dream figure can then experience in the dream peace, love, and joy.
Yeah. And I don't know how many thousands of times I repeat lesson 5. I'm never upset for the reason I think.
Very cool. Should we keep reading, or
Maybe somebody else would like a turn.
who is inspired to continue the reading?
Yay.
Amy. There it is. All yours, Amy.
Where did we end off? How?
You can begin with how can you come to know?
Okay. How can you come to know that you are present everywhere and at all times? How can you come to know beyond a doubt that you are infinite and unlimited? How can you shed the thoughts and assumptions that the mind uses to keep you feeling bound? We will take a journey of realizations, insights, and understandings in this book that can help you undo the assumptions that are stopping your eternal joy. With each chapter, we will undo more of the assumptions of the mind, and it will become clearer and clearer what you are. If you do not understand something written in the upcoming chapters, know that you have infinite help around you, even if you are alone reading this and do not know of anyone else that is like you and interested in truth. Simply the wish to understand it must bring that understanding to you in time, and you can always reread each chapter until it makes sense. The truth of your being and the truth of what reality is are the same thing. You are reality. You are everywhere at all times. Time and space exist only as an idea inside you. It is time to break free from all limitations and to begin to live as your infinite self. Mind is hypnotic and alluring only for a limited time only. The fact that you are reading this means it is losing its hold over you. There is a whole reality beyond the mind, and that is what you are. There will be times when you doubt if you can do this, whether you can understand this. But remember, you can always contact us to ask questions or get help. Contact details are in the back of the book. Now let's get started. Read this book in its entirety a few times. We learn by repetition, and we only accept that as true that seems obvious and familiar to us. It is up to you to read this and question what you read consistently enough to make it your own direct knowledge and experience. If there is any gap between what you have seen to be true and what you are living as then, there must be a belief in the way that needs to be removed. I'm going to read that again. If there is any gap between what you have seen to be true and what you are living as then, there must be a belief in the way that needs to be removed.
So, Amy, if you want to read that again and create the pause between the word as and then.
If there is any gap between what you have seen to be true and what you are living as, then there must be a belief in the way that needs to be removed. Thank you, Cindy.
Oh, believe me, I spent quite a bit of time with this sentence. That's why it's highlighted in my Kindle.
Well, this is what you teach all the time. Simply to recognize, I don't understand what has been written, but I would like to know it beyond doubt, will bring that to you. Ask that question and go have a cup of tea and watch the understanding present itself to you. Always rely on your own experience of what is written here. Do not be content with my words. Become this book. Live as this book, and you will never know suffering again. Wow. Wow.
I am grateful for whatever the energy was that got us through the intro, because what I'd like to do is invite all of us, even as John begins to speak, to allow the doubt to rise to consciousness. Just allow it to come up, because I don't know, I confess, it's going to be that easy. All I have to do is question and the answer will come. You know, are you telling me that hanging out with my friends and reading this book will give me an enlightenment, will allow me to live in the truth of who I am? All I have to do is continually to question my doubt and bring it here and ask for guidance. Yeah, really? Am I willing to trust that
You also have to have a cup of tea.
and have a cup of tea? Like, I'm just inviting, like, the part of this mind that says I've been doing this shit for decades and I'm enjoying the whole process of hanging with my friends. And if you're going to tell me all I have to do is hang with these words in this book for a while and the truth will be known, there's something here either that doubts it or doesn't want it to be that simple, or what is my life going to be like on the other side of that? Like, literally, there's a whole bunch of stuff happening, and it's cool to allow it to come to the surface.
That's
Hey,
Rama's
John.
living and
What?
not knowing.
Yeah. John.
Those are good questions for yourself there, Cindy. And I think that's one of the things that attracts people here to you, and your honesty, and and your lack of integrity, because that's what we're all speaking to. And it's how do I have these, she says, blocks, and then winds up in telling you their beliefs. And so how do I have them? And what's my investment in keeping them? And so these are questions. But what I like most of all, and I want to repeat it for myself, is that she's taken a stance here, an authoritative stance, and telling you exactly what you got to do. You have to repeat this, repeat it. The reason you got to repeat it because number one, she's telling you you're hypnotized to the old thing, the old stories, yeah, that's going to take a little bit of unwinding. One of the ways you unwind it is to re-hypnotize yourself to the truth. And she's presenting this again, and this is no different from any of these wisdom books, including Course in Miracles, and which is actually, in my view, no difference from the teachings of the Christian message, well, just updated. Number one, love the God with all thy heart and all thy might. You know, I can love the God and my neighbor as myself. Am I doing that when I'm running judgments against anybody else, or my daughter, or my neighbor, or anything, or myself even still? Like, hey man, give myself a break. And by the way, if I'm going to rely on faith for this, I have to have some faith in something. And faith, to me, speaks what I learned today, is having the loyalty or fidelity to a contract. A contract between who? Everything we do is a contract. Everything, every word, thing is a contract. And the contract at the end of the day is between the divine, the big X and the little x, the infinite X and the little infinite X. And I love what you said about the expression that Rupert said to you two, because that is what we are. You just don't have to go far away from the Bible to learn that God breathed the breath of life and man became a living soul. That is the relationship between the soul, the growing soul that's just breathing, and the infinite, which nobody can put a handle on, but we know that it's there because because we're here. And so the exciting part is, how do I look at this dance or this relationship, this contract between me, a finite mind, and an infinite mind? What is the contract there? And it's exactly what Rupert Spira said. And to me, it's the spirit is busy molding, and that's the spirit that moved over the face of the earth. The infinite. It's not the infinite power. It's the spirit of it that moved over the face of the earth. The spirit is busy molding matter and consciousness so that both may become a more perfect vehicle. This form may become a perfect vehicle for perfect spiritual expression, which is God in manifestation, which is God coming to earth in perfect form. And it's a process, an evolutionary process. And the exciting part is that you and all these people, 3, 6, 9, 12 people here, show up with the same image, the same idea. Oh man, that's power. That's really moving the needle. So I'm excited to be here and giving you my spin on the thing. And thank you everybody for being here for me.
Oh, thank you, John.
Cindy, you've been
Sandra.
telling me for a while now, and I think you've been telling all of us, that in your experience, I think you even said this week, even just 4 years ago, your experience now is different, and that you have gradually and certainly begun to integrate this more into your daily experience. And that resonated with me so much, and that gives me the hope. And so I don't have doubt about reading this book because I know it's not the book. What she's talking about isn't the book, I don't think. She's saying, feel these, they are concepts, feel this truth, and together, as John just said, together, we'll get exactly what we're supposed to get.
Yeah.
And that's what I get here every time I come. So
can I speak to that for a minute, even though we
of
only have
course.
a minute left? So I've started using this term. A lot of people have heard it, the self-referencing I filtering system. Yeah. And that self-referencing I filtering system has as its flavor a sense of not me, not here, not now. And more, as I just hold it and watch it, I recognize that it contains the Cindy personality and the Cindy expression, But just by showing up in these and doing these contemplations and this work and asking for the truth over and over again, I am recognizing that there's a natural like peeling away. It's not that sticky. It's happening. It's very cool to watch. But someone in this room recently said to me, "Didn't you miss Maeve while you were gone?" Like, oh, what she said, quote unquote, was, "Give me Maeve." And my response was, "Okay, come and get her." And she said, "You wouldn't give her to me," or something like that's what I heard. I said, "Why not?" And the thing was, I saw it as true. Like there is a being I currently share my space with, a feline, but there's no longer this sense of attachment. Like if she left this space now, if I looked around and all of a sudden she was gone, the personality, self-referencing eye filtering system might feel something, but I would just watch it. I don't even I didn't recognize it until that experience happened and I walked away and I looked and there was something in it that wanted to say you don't know how to love because you didn't respond differently, but I wasn't attached to that either. So even when I'm saying doubt is coming up, the doubt that this is going to work is actually contained within the self-referencing eye filtering system. It's not personal. William, were you going to say something? Oh no, there he is.
No, I have to
Oh,
go. But
all
thank you,
right.
thank you, thank you, thank you,
Much
thank
love.
you, thank you. It's so
So yeah, so we're at the hour and there was a request and let me just turn the recording off first so that we don't have to do anything per minute. Man, I love us. This is fun. We'll
Oh
continue next
God,
week.
Cindy, I just want to reiterate what John said. He just said it so well. And what Sandra said too. I so appreciate the power of your curiosity about your own spiritual truth and your willingness to share your, when you make a wrong turn or when you get stuck in a certain place or how you got out of things. It's so, I don't even have any word for it. I just so appreciate it.
We're
It's
doing it together.
great.
All right, let me turn this off. And now that this is